Movies. We all watch them. We all love them. But how did they get to where they are? Today I'll be doing a deep dive into the history of compositing and the work and development made to make movies what they are today. On screen is a scene from Infinity War. This is what we expect movies to look like. But what did it look like before all of the work was done? Before all the editing, compositing and the CGI, this is what it looked like. But how did this technology get here? In 1903, Edwin S. Porter released his movie The Great Train Robbery. This movie was the first to use a new technique called film matting. Film matting is the process of covering parts of the camera's film to stop exposure hitting that select part. They would then take the film and add the matting to the parts that were exposed in the first shot. They would reshoot the desired shot and there you have it, 2 shots an hour 1. From film matting rose matte painting. Matte painting was the process of painting scenery and sets onto a piece of glass and filming. This allowed them to have bigger sets which couldn't be possible otherwise. Here are some examples. The first is from 1933, King Kong. And the 1936, Charlie Chaplin in Modern Times. Without the use of matte painting, these shots wouldn't have been possible. To build the sets would have been too expensive and too time consuming. Only 4 years after Charlie Chaplin in Modern Times in 1940, The Thief of Baghdad was released. This film had been the first to use blue screen. Although it is not perfect, it was a good start. As years went on, blue screen became more and more popular. News stations started to transition to green screens in the early 70s as it was seamless, and the reporters could see what they were pointing at in real time. Although green screens are seen as better than blue screens, green screens still have their problems. To have a convincing use of a green screen, there's a few steps you need to take. You will need to colour correct, as outside shots tend to have more blue light, whereas indoor shots tend to have more yellow light. The lighting used also needs to match the foreground and background shot. There's also the problem of camera distance. If the camera distance and angle of the foreground and background shot don't match, it will leave the scene looking strange and unnatural. Actors can't wear certain colours, or reflections on armour can become an issue. And that's what happened on the TV show The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian is a TV show produced by Lucasfilm and ILM, where the main character wears reflective armour at all times. They needed a way around this, so with the help of Epic's Unreal Engine and some big TVs, they created the volume. But what exactly is the volume?
In partnership with ILM and Epic, we have put together a system whereby which we can have game engine, real-time render, and video wall technology coming together to create a backdrop for the big, beautiful world of Star Wars.
The volume is 21 feet tall, it's 75 feet in diameter, run by 7 machines, pumping the visuals onto the screen that's been created in pre-production and can be on the screen within 24 hours of being finaled.
With the volume being so successful, it may see wider use in the future and make its way across the industry, becoming the standard. There are some people who helped with the skills that I've already spoken about. The Lumiere brothers, Auguste and Louis, they created the first use of film matting using cutouts, but used it for a more novelty purpose. The next is Norman Dorn. Norman Dorn was the first to use the matte shot in his 1907 movie Missions of California. In the early 1920s, the first optical printer was created. This was later developed in the 1930s by Linwood G. Dunn, who was working for the United States military. The original optical printer was used to copy pieces of film and resize them. This was done with a camera and a projector on either end of the machine. Dunn's optical printer could do that and more. Dunn's printer could make zoom shots at any speed and make slide-off effects in any direction. Painting and different coloured pieces of cloth aren't the only way to composite things. Another technique that has become more and more popular as people move to digital production is layer masking. Layer masking is a non-destructive way to remove sections of pictures and video. Using this technique means everything is reversible, make changes to it later. To create a layer mask, you need to open up your photo or video of choice. For photos, you need to click the mask layer button. This will add a section to the side of the layer that is white. Selecting this and using the black pen, you draw over what you want hidden. To change this, you then use a white pen. For video, you go to the Effects tab of the part of the video you want. Click the pen tool under Mask to draw around the section you want shown, or you can click Invert and it will hide the selected part. The next technique is rear projection. Rear projection is the use of a projector to have something played behind the foreground. An example of this can be seen in the movie Psycho, where the main character is driving and the background is moving behind her. This was done as filming the shot on location would have been difficult. The setup would look like this. Along with rear projection is front projection. Front projection is done by angling a one-way mirror at a 45-degree angle to the background. The camera is placed behind the one-way mirror, and the image is projected to the mirror and onto the background. A use of this can be seen in 2001: A Space Odyssey. CGI was first used in 1958 by Alfred Hitchcock in his film Vertigo, which included computer-generated animation. Since then, CGI has improved drastically. Now they can create complete 3D environments while simulating effects such as water or smoke. In Sean Levi's Free Guy, they did just this. Throughout the movie there are scenes that would be too hard or cost too much to do with practical effects, so they filmed the shots they needed and created the assets and lathed them to create the desired scene. Here was my attempt at creating a CG scene. I used some old green screen footage and found a suitable background. The next thing I did was cut out the assets I needed to create depth. This included the trees and a rock I found that matched the style. I then opened this Photoshop document in After Effects and opened the composition. These gave me the assets in layers. I used these assets to create shadows for said assets. I then added the CC light rays effect onto an adjustment layer and put it in the top right corner. This is where the light would be coming from to create the shadow. The last thing I did was add the green screen footage and keyed it. I then duplicated it and created a shadow for the person. When we filmed the scene, we were in a studio. The studio we used was set up like this, with the camera a few meters from the person running, and the lights would hang from the ceiling to have an even dispersal of light, leaving no area darker than another.
So I use compositing when I'm doing, for example, scenes out by the beach or something. You've got a blown out sky and you want to put some realistic clouds or sunlight coming in through from the back. So you'd mask out the big blown out sky and introduce some nice bokeh blurred out clouds in the background and a nice sky. CGI has changed the film industry by allowing us to produce scenes that you wouldn't be able to film in the real world. You can have, for example, a spaceship flying out of a spaceship in space, flying down through to the planet without breaking continuity on the shot, and just gives you a whole new world that you can present to the viewer. I think CGI can be relied on too often. It's kind of the easy option to take now. A lot of the old physical effects and doing stuff with real world stuff brings more of a presence to the shot and to the things that people are holding, like prop work and things like that. I think CGI is kind of, it becomes a bit boring at this point. It all kind of looks similar or the same. I have seen it. It seems really good. It gives you a much wider stage to work with for backgrounds, the extra reflections that they're adding in and all that. Seems like it's going to be taking the next step forward in projections for backgrounds. I think there is definitely places that they'll be using this more in the future with expansive backgrounds. The actors actually have something to work with rather than just being sat on a green screen and pretending things are around them. They can all point at the same thing in a shot that's happening around them in real time. It just adds more realism into the shot and gives them something to actually work with rather than just pretending all the time.
The innovation that these people have made, the techniques they've developed, the technologies they created, have made movies what they are today. The things these people have done from matte painting to Dun's optical printer. These innovations have allowed studios to keep costs down, which has allowed them to think bigger, think outside the box, and always strive to make the next film bigger and better.